All right, in this video, we're going to be talking about estate division. Now, the premise of this video is that when a family member dies, let's just say like maybe a mom or a dad or maybe both parents at the same time, how their stuff is divided among other family members. All right, so just to kind of again wrap your brain around this, if you were to divide up something fairly, let's just take something very simple like a $20 bill. Well, if you were dividing them up into two, into two, or among two people, that's easy. Each person would get $10. Because it's easy to split up money. I mean, easy divide by two. There you go. Even a cake, again, splitting it up is relatively simple. Cut it right down the middle. That's easy. But what happens is when you start dealing with stuff that really can't be split. All right, so like for example, some of you guys have heard of when like maybe a mom or dad or a grandmother, grandfather, when they die, the children tend to get into a fight because one family member wants something, the other family member wants something else. So what happens is you're dealing with a situation where things are trying to be divided that can't be divided. Like for example, with a house, it's very difficult to divide a house. I mean, I'm sure you can probably paint a line down the middle of it and say you stay on this side, I stay on this side. But in reality, it's not. Same thing for a car. Very hard to divide up a car. All right. And so what we're doing today is that we are going to mathematically divide up an estate. All right. So we're going to, like, for example, let's say if Uncle Joe died and this right here was his house. Okay. We are going to apply a mathematical way in order to divide this up fairly. Okay. And so just stay tuned and we'll talk more about it. All right. So it is estimated that $30 trillion will be inherited over the next 30 years. That's a lot of money. All right. You guys can keep reading that. But basically, what happens is this: one generation dies and their stuff is passed on to the next generation. And so, just a couple of well, actually, one vocabulary, and that is this, the estate. Whenever I refer to the estate, and I'm going to use this word a lot, it represents all the money and property owned by a particular person. Okay, so whenever I say the estate, it means the stuff that was owned by the individual. So, like for example number one, Uncle Joe died. All right, so Uncle Joe died. Now, the three main things he has is a house, a boat, and a car. Those are the three main things. All right. Not only that, he has three heirs. We'll just assume that these are his kids. All right. We have Albert and Chris. Not only does he have three items, but he also has $150,000 in cash. So what we've got to do is we've got to take all of this stuff and divide it amongst three kids evenly. All right. So the very, very first thing you need to do, and that is this. If you notice, there's a whole bunch of numbers here. Okay. What these numbers mean, they represent what Al, Bert, and Chris believe the house, boat, and car is worth. So if you look at and let me see if I can kind of clean this up for a second here. If you look at the house column, all right, if you look at the house column right here, Al thinks the house is worth 100,000. Bert thinks the house is worth 80,000, and thinks the house is worth 120. So basically, what they did, they put their own value on the house. The same thing for the boat, and the same thing for the car. Now, in order for this process to start, each heir has to put their own value on the item. Okay, so their own value, in their opinion, what they believe each item is to be worth. All right, and so if you notice, let's just start with the house. If you start at the house, Al thinks the house is worth 100,000. Bert thinks it's worth 80,000, and then lastly, Chris is worth thinks that the house is worth 120. So Chris obviously values the house a lot more than Al or Bert. Okay, now to start everything off, at what price does the heir estimate the estate to be worth? Now, what that means is this: what you've got to do is you have to add all the bids plus the cash. Okay. Now, this is what you do. All right. So Al believes Al believes the house is worth 100,000. He believes the boat is worth 12,000. He believes the car is worth 20,000. Okay, that's his opinion. Now, not only that, in his bid, there's also $150,000 in cash. All right, so plus $150,000 in cash. So what that means is Al believes that the entire estate, everything that Uncle Joe owns from his items plus his bank account is worth $282,000. That's his opinion. Bert, same exact way. We're going to take all of Bert's bids, and then also we're going to add the 150,000 to it. Now you might be asking, well, why are you adding 150,000? The reason I'm adding 150,000 is because what the overall price or the estimate what the heir thinks the estate to be worth, you got to add up the bids and the cash. So in Bert's mind, he thinks the estate is worth 260,000, and you do the same thing for Chris. Add 150,000, so you're at 293,000. Okay. So each heir, now here, what makes this fair is that Albert and Chris all work off of their own estimates. Okay, so it's not like Bert, and so the thing is, it's not like Bert's estimate is going to affect Al's estimate. So in order to keep it fair, everyone's working off their own estimate. All right. So now the next step, and that is this: find the fair share. Now the fair share is defined as basically it's each estimate divided by the heirs. Okay, so let's look at, let's kind of clean this up a little bit so we can kind of do this here. And a lot of this is just patterns and all it is. So put yourself in the mind of Al. Al believes the entire estate is worth 282,000. So Al believes the entire estate is worth 282,000. So that means in his mind, Al believes everyone's fair share, very simply, we divide by 3, and then we end up with, in Al's mind, he believes everyone should end up with $94,000 because he thinks the house or he thinks everything's worth 282,000, so everyone should get $94,000. But Bert disagrees. He thinks everything is worth 260,000. We're going to divide this by 3. So in his mind, 260,000 divided by 3 ended up being 80, and I think I end up with a decimal here, but I'm going to round, $86,667. Same thing for Chris. Chris believes the estate is worth 293,000, and so that means everyone should get whatever 293 divided by 3 is. And I think I'm going to end up with another decimal here. And he believes every 97,667. So each heir has their own opinion on what they believe each person should get. Al thinks everyone should get 94,000 based off of his estimates. Bert thinks everyone should get 86,000 based off of his estimates. And lastly, Chris, 97,000. All right, so everyone works off their own calculations. Again, that's what makes it fair. All right, so let's continue. All right, so let me change this here. Okay, now subtract the winning bids from the fair share. Now, this is where, again, wrap your brain around this, okay? If you notice, this is what Al believes everyone should get. This is what Bert thinks everyone should get. And this is what Chris is worth. If you notice, there's only $150,000 in cash. There's not enough cash to cover all of these fair shares. There's not enough cash to cover it. So what happens is, in order to cover it, they are going to start dividing up the actual stuff. All right. So here's what we're going to do. So looking at the house, whoever has the highest bid on the house. So the highest bid on the house is Chris. Chris had the highest bid on the house. Let's see. Bert had the highest bid on the boat, and Al had the highest bid on the car. So whoever had the highest bid will actually be whatever these bids are will actually be factored into these fair shares. All right. So watch this. All right, so let me again clean all this stuff up. Al needs $94,000 based off of his estimate, but he won the car. So here's what's going to happen. We're going to subtract the cost of the car. All right. So he's getting the car, which means we're subtracting the cost of the car. So that means Al is going to get the car, and the rest of his fair share will be given in cash. All right. Same thing with Bert. Bert won the boat, but yeah, so basically the same thing. Sorry, I don't know why I put a but in there, but so we are going to subtract 15,000 from his fair share. So when we do that, we get 71,667. All right. Lastly, Chris, again, Chris thinks everyone should get 97,000, but notice Chris is about to be rewarded a $120,000 house. Well, that's not fair. Why should someone get more money? Why should someone get more than they think everyone should get? So it's kind of like someone saying, "I believe everyone should get $50. Okay, here's 60." Now that doesn't make sense. All right. So basically, what we have here is some heir was awarded something that was actually more than their fair share. So what that means is Chris, when we subtract, he's actually going to have a negative number. So Chris is actually going to be negative 22,333. Now, whenever someone has a negative number, that means they're going to have to pay that back. They're going to have to pay back the difference because they were rewarded something way more than they were than they should have gotten. All right. So here is kind of the relationship in which we're going to do this. Okay. So first off, 150,000 is what we started with because that's how much cash was in the estate, 150,000. So 150,000. Now, the money from the heirs. That means, does anybody have to pay anything back? Oh, Chris does. Chris has got to pay back some money. So the money that Chris has got to pay back is 22,333. All right, so he is actually going to pay the estate back. He's paying the bank back, so to speak. Now, when he pays it back, his debt is now at zero. He doesn't owe anything. He's already paid the estate. And so from here, we're going to add the money that Chris paid from the starting amount, which is 172,333. All right. Now, then once with this money, we start paying off the heirs. Okay. So now we have enough money to actually start paying off. So A needs 74,000. So we're going to take 74,000 and 71,000 and we're going to take it out of this new cash amount. So minus 74,000 minus 71,667. Now see, paid off his debt. He's at zero. So how much cash is left over? $26,666. Okay. So everyone has been paid off. Chris paid back the estate, so his debt is cleared. Sorry, I was interrupted, so I had to. So I can't remember where I stopped at. So there's $26,000 left. All right, so all the heirs have been paid off, all the items have been rewarded, but there's leftover money. We're not supposed to have leftover money because everything's supposed to be evenly divided. So what we do is whatever money is left over. All right, so whatever money is left over, since everyone has been paid off, and everybody has been basically wiped clean, so to speak. We're going to divide it by the heirs, which means this is what is called a bonus. All right. Oop. So whatever money gets left over would be considered a bonus. So that means everyone's going to get whatever money is left over split amongst all of them. All right. So if you remember, A was given 74,000, but he's going to get a bonus for $808,889. All right, that ends up being a number I can't think of at the top. Oh, there it is, 82,889. But remember, he also won a car. Now you might be saying, well, maybe he doesn't want the car. Well, sell it. Sell it and get $20,000. You're good. All right. B, 71,667 plus a bonus, which means he's going to walk away from the table of 80,556. But remember, he also got a boat. Now, again, you might be asking, well, what if he doesn't want a boat? Well, sell it. There you go. If you remember C, he paid his debt back to the account, so he was at zero, and he's going to get his bonus, which means his total cash is going to be $8,889. But remember, he also got the house. Now, again, he may not want the house. He had the highest bid on the house. He may not want it. So guess what he can do? He can always sell it, and he can get his money back that way. So, with all that being said, that's how you evenly divide up an estate that, um, with items that can't be easily divided. All right. Now, be sure, I guess this is going to be part two. Be sure to check out part two when we start talking more into it, but that's pretty much the concept. So if you want to see it one more time, be sure to check out the second video. Thank you for watching.